Okay, I'll call this Regional Council meeting to order. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually. It is being streamed and recorded. Should virtual attendees wish to address Council during either public comment period or question and answer period, use the raise hands feature on your webinar controls. When it is your turn and are prompted, unmute your microphone, state your name, and ask your question. Once your question is ended, you will be muted again. Guidelines for public attendees: use respectful language. Please keep your questions brief and concise, and only pose questions directly related to business listed on the Council meeting agenda. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor Souls, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All those in favor? Carried. Council additions. Mayor's list. I have no additions. Council additions. Additions. CAO additions.
No, Mayor.
Adoption of the minutes, please, for a motion to adopt the minutes of Regional Council February 24th, Special Regional Council February 26th, Special Regional Council March 5th, Special Regional Council March 8th, and Regional Council of March 8th. And I get a motion to adopt those minutes, please. Moved by Councillor Penny.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Dolan. All those in favor? Carried. Business arising, outstanding items. Given the length of discussion at the March 8th Regional Council meeting on the items, rules of order will be employed. Municipal operational overviews. Councillor Andros, did you want to speak to this?
Mayor, you forgot question number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment period. Are there any comments from the public on the agenda tonight? My mistake. Very well. Business arising. Given the length of discussion, the March 8th Regional Council meeting on the item to follow, rules of order will be employed. Councillor Andrews, did you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping you guys had some chance to think about it, gather some information. I've had a bunch of people in the public come to me in support of looking into having an operational review, sorry. This is something I'm hoping we can pursue, look into. I'm hoping to have a discussion with Council about it.
Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews and Mr. Mayor. I think some of the feedback I've received is that there is a good level of support for a operational review, a third-party audit. So that's the information I have, but I understand we're still gathering information. So I can see us not making a decision today based on gathering more information.
I'll speak in opposition to this. As far as an operational review, I've had enough information regarding an operational review. I don't think one is necessary, and further, I think if one is necessary and Council was to desire this, the proper place to bring this up would be in the strategic planning meeting. So I am going to vote against an operational review of the municipality. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Souls.
I think the issue of operational reviewing of a municipality is somewhat different than when you do so with a corporation or another type of a business, and I find it that there's always a mechanism. In one sense, the councillors that are elected to office constantly working as auditors of a machine that is in our community, in our case the NRRM, and it becomes the machine that we all benefit from and that we all work within and so on. And every time we are sitting and making decisions here, whether they're economic decisions or decisions on services and so on, it's a form of auditing. And so in one sense, the auditing goes on all the time, and we have to determine as individual councillors whether or not we are think of ourselves as independent or not, and I certainly see that we are independent and yet we work together as a team. And there is a time, of course, for third-party audits in the world. I get that. Realize that, but when I see my overview, at least my audit of where the Northern Rockies is at operationally overall, I consider it to be very healthy, and I don't see why there would be a push at this point for a third-party review.
Councillor Andrews.
I know that looking at it as a third-party review, using the word audit and stuff, it's negative, and there are some negative things that can be brought up. I'm looking at this as an advancement tool. We've been working quite well with management mostly getting the efficiencies down within the municipality. We're being told that we are kind of at our end of our rope. So to me, having a third-party review is like a report card we can have, something to help us look at things maybe we didn't think of before. We continually work to save money, look at efficiencies. I think having somebody else come in, some buddies else who are experts, hopefully will be able to give us some more insight and point things out that we might not notice. It's not something that I think we should be scared of, but maybe more reoccurring. We do annual audits on our financials. We could do every four-year review of the municipality, maybe. I don't know. It's just something I think warrants discussion.
Councillor Penny.
I agree, Councillor Andrews, to some of your points there, and I would actually be open to have further discussions in the future as to setting up some sort of review process that it happens every so many years. Like I said, every 4 years, maybe if it landed in the middle of the council's term, then it would give council an idea. But that's something that I think that would have to happen. You know, there's a great deal of discussion I think would have to happen with council before we come up on a decision for that, for a complete audit or review of the town. I can't help but feel a little disappointed on how it was brought forth this time. We've just spent, due to COVID, an extended amount of time coming up with our strategic plans and our priorities as council, and I hadn't heard of this along the way. I would have liked to have a lot more time for us to discuss this. So even though I would be open to looking into this into the future and making a plan, I just 2 weeks prior to final budget decision and just being dropped, I really had a hard time with this coming up at this time in this way.
Councillor Gerwing.
So, just have a little spiel here that I want to get on the record. I just feel that it's really important, and I just want to be heard. So, as always, I work hard to make an informed decision. As I tried to identify a process, because you know me and my processes, for making this decision, I decided to review what I actually see. So in my quest to be fully transparent, I want to share what information I am using to guide my decision-making process. So what do I see? Fiscal management. In one of the worst economic downturns in many years, the NRRM is fiscally sound. Throughout this economic downturn, the tax levy remains stable. For my 7 years on council, without exception, the NRRM has never exceeded its budget. Multi-million-dollar projects are consistently completed within or under budget. Staff work hard to identify ways to keep as much work as possible available for local procurement while being fiscally responsible. The NRRM management team have created a culture of successful grant procurement and organizing the infrastructure needs around possible grant opportunities, again, as much as possible. Navigating through the pandemic, even with declining user fees and increased costs, the NRRM came in slightly under budget. Staff have a positive relationship with provincial bureaucrats, very much a plus when thinking of our annual $5 million infrastructure grant from the province and all the subsequent reporting required. Infrastructure. Asset management allows for a planned approach to spending, upgrading, maintenance, service planning, and delivery. The asset management plan created by our staff with guidance from a consultant has won an award, and staff have been asked to deliver workshops to other local governments on what our plan looks like and the benefits of the plan. A good example of how the plan works is this. The asset management plan identified the need for fire vehicle upgrades, and a saving plan was implemented. 3 vehicles were purchased last year without any borrowing required. This plan allows the NRM to make informed and strategic decisions around the management of our assets, which are valued at $500 million. Personnel. In November of 2018, just after the election, the CAO presented the municipal overview to Council. Council was made aware of each position within the NRM and its associated responsibilities. I realize that this does not satisfy the residents that are looking for an independent review, but again, this is what I saw. Consider that we have a huge geographic region to maintain, an airport to run, solid waste management responsibilities throughout the region, how many miles of roads to maintain and plow, 2 regional parks and campgrounds, a number of local parks, miles of grass to cut, a community trail to maintain, an aquatic and recreation center to run, and a responsibility to provide clean, safe water and fire protection. This list is not all-encompassing. I just want to highlight some of the responsibilities borne by our staff. So given all this, we see relatively few staff union grievances proceed to the council level. When the pandemic hit, I saw our staff work together to plan and coordinate the NRM's response. I saw flexibility, staff moving to totally different work responsibilities to help meet whatever current need was before us. I saw staff work 7 days a week and 12+ hours per day for far too long, but they did, and that's what I saw. Was the response perfect? Probably not. Not much is, but what I saw was a crew of people working together to help us all get through. Again, when I'm considering a decision, I needed to determine what is being asked, and even more so tonight, I'm not entirely clear on the ask, but when I was writing this response, I decided to work from these 2 definitions. So a core service review is a broad review of all municipal programs and services to consider what services should be provided and at what level. It will often include identification of opportunities for service delivery improvements or efficiencies. An organizational review is a planned systemic review of an organization's process, work environment, and organizational structure. Keeping these 2 definitions in mind, I wanted to say that to date, I have not seen or experienced anything that would lead me to believe that an outside review would be of benefit or is necessary, and definitely not during a pandemic where every interaction would have to be virtual. Is everything perfect? No, it's not. But I believe the residents of the NRM have entrusted Mayor and Council to make the hard decisions and choices. I feel confident that Mayor and Council, along with the CAO, the administrative team, and staff can meet the challenges ahead. Now, this said, some information was shared tonight that I believe the organization would benefit from investigating. But I don't think it's a review. That is the answer. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gervin. Very well said. Are there any other comments? Very well. I will now have my long-winded response, Councillor Gervin. Been my goal from the outset of my time in office to make clear my wholehearted support for the staff of and that's from the CAO down to the newest part-time worker. I've had the opportunity, and I look forward to speaking to all the employees at Christmas, and have taken that opportunity to express my gratitude for their commitment to the organization. I'm certain that the employees of the Northern Rockies are aware of my respect for them and the work they do for our shared community each and every day. From time to time, I write in a newspaper, and the only reference you will see me regarding staff is a positive one. It takes a lot of manpower to run a municipality, from planning to treasury, firefighters that answer the call, people to run our airport, people to carry out the objectives of council, lifeguards, snowplow operators, BSW workers that work hard to keep our facilities clean, have a safe environment for our families at the rec center. People who run our water system, so we have clean water and safe drinking water. These are the people that I'm proud to work alongside with every day to make our community a better place. Are there any other questions? Any comments from councillors? Councillor Andrews.
I'd just like to say that I know things look good. I grew up in the municipality around all these people, and when you have enough people coming to you with concerns from many different walks of lives, that it warrants at least a conversation of potential cost and potential scope. And I would just at the very least like to move forward with looking into prices, scopes, and furthering this conversation as a council.
Any other comments? Very well. If there are none, I'm going to call the question for a municipal operational review. Councillor Andrews, you want to make that motion?
I will make that motion alongside with a bunch of signed letters I have yet to be able to scan into council.
We have a seconder for Councillor Andrews' motion, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is defeated. Thank you. Reports. Administration report number 12, Nonda Creek Tower Road. Mr. Toft.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Wanted to bring you a short little update on the Nonda Creek Tower Road. This came about recently with the decommissioning of the Northwest Tel Tower sites at Summit Lake and Nonda Creek Tower. And as a result of the decommissioning work that was completed there last summer, we've received a number of inquiries from the general public and interested stakeholders up highway. So Scott and I were talking about it. You've received I think one of your recent meetings, the Tourism Advisory Committee advised you of their support for trying to maintain the access up into the Nonda Tower. So I gave you a little bit of a background. Sorry if I'm not speaking into the mic here. Give you a little bit of background. I guess I've lived up here a long time, and I'd never been up on the Nonda Creek Tower Road until last year. Yep, Councillor Gerwing, it's true. I didn't go up there until I had a side-by-side trip with the boys from Toad River. So interesting. And then I had another one where I was up to the Up Highway Council meeting in July and had the opportunity to drive up there in a pickup, and it was really very interesting. So background-wise, when I was talking with Tom and Jim Fulton, they explained the legacy of when that tower was put in. So it was in the early 50s. It was a Bailey Bridge that was put across the river, and was there forever and ever until recently. And I think in 2019, the residents in Toad River, some of them, guide outfitters and a couple of other tenure holders, received notices that from Northwest Tel that they would be looking at decommissioning the tower and then potentially the access to the facility. So I guess the long and short of it was we responded, said we'd support the residents up in Toad. We'd look into it. We didn't get a lot of details. We couldn't really figure out who the jurisdiction of the road tenure belonged to, or who owned the bridge, because the bridge after the road was built, the Muncho Lake Park was established in 1957. So the bridge was actually included in the park. So I think we were told BC Parks owns the ownership of the bridge, and they have the maintenance of the road, or the responsibility of the road from Alaska Highway up to Nonda Creek. So when the decommissioning of the tower site was recently completed, we were advised by BC Parks and by Ministry of Forests that some further work has to take place up at the Nonda Creek tower site to do a little bit more remediation work, and I think a little bit more remediation work at the old power station site. So that's going to take place, and I think we received, or BC Parks received, notification from Northwest Tel of their intention to potentially remove the bridge from the Toad River crossing, unless they're, oops, I see a hand up there.
Councillor Andrews.
Sorry, just to jump in there, that yeah, Northwest Tel is responsible to take the bridge out, and they would rather leave it there because it'd be cheaper for them. So
good point, Mr. Andrews, Councillor Andrews. So I think when we went back and forth on the discussion, it became very clear that there was a lot of finger pointing and unknowns in terms of who owned the jurisdiction to remove the bridge, which we think is probably Northwest Tel, and there's room for further discussion. This is a unique road in the sense that it is part of the Musqueam-Kachika management area. The road was designated as a designated vehicle access route, one of three that's, to my understanding, Davis Keys, Churchill, and then the one up Tower where vehicles are allowed up there. So in the analysis of this, tried to be objective. We listened to a variety of different stakeholders, and I'll tell you that there is a variety of opinions, regardless of who you are. And I know that there's one particular individual that lives up there. It's Blair Miller, so I can say his name because he's been at a couple of these forums where he's expressed a concern that he wants the bridge maintained. He has looked at different opportunities or options, like whether if it comes down to it, he would take it, but I don't think he wants to take on the liability. There is an opportunity for BC Parks, Ministry of Forest, Northern Rockies, and probably the residents of the Toad River Area Committee to have some further discussions, and there might be an opportunity for council to provide some guidance moving forward. We were advised that after I wrote this report, we had a Northeast Rockies information session. Councillor Gerwing was sitting on the call, and so was Councillor Andrews. And one of the update items was the regional manager with BC Parks, Ed Hoffman, provided a quick 15-minute update of where we were at this point in time. The way I took Ed's conversation, and I knew Ed from when he worked up here with the Ministry of Forest, he was always a good guy to deal with, is that there's still some things to be done. Northwest Tel plans to go up the highway or go up and finish their decommissioning work. He did advise that Northwest Tel was kind of in a rush potentially to look at removing the bridge or putting it out for tender, and I don't think that that's what's going to happen at this point in time. There's some further discussion, and there's some innovative ways of looking at how to deal with maintaining the access up there. So it was just a discussion item, and it was a little long-winded. I apologize.
Any comment, councillors? Councillor Gerwing.
So just to reiterate that Northwest Tel can't at some point in time just throw up their hands and say, we're pulling the bridge. Sometimes these discussions can take a long time, and so I just want to make sure that we're not creating a situation that...
Mr. Toft?
Barry?
Mr. Barry?
That's a good question, Councillor Gerwing. We really don't know, honestly. I mean, we've had conversations limited as of late with Northwest Tel because the province has been in Bylaw because they're a jurisdiction. From what we gather, I mean, there's been lots of communication around what that road should look like, and basically, and the reason why this is going to council tonight is for council's discussions also, and if need be, some guidance. We know what the Tourism Advisory Committee has provided in their recommendation. As Doug has mentioned, there's various stakeholders have various different opinions. The majority, though, and when I say the majority, Toad did a bit of an impromptu survey. They've indicated, the Toad residents have indicated that they want to have the road the way it currently is today. Some have suggested have ATV access, limited to ATVs past the bridge, and then said eliminate the access. So, not quite sure. Sorry, what Northwest Tel's thoughts are. It might be just pushing the process.
I guess my fear is that from the people that I speak to and just experiences, I think it would be just shame in the whole world to lose that road and lose that bridge. So in a public meeting, but if at the same time as we're negotiating with the province, could we be, maybe we are researching what it would cost, and so that when it comes to council we have to make a decision, we're not going, oh, well, wait, we need to figure that all out, because maybe we are doing parallel streams of research.
We can,
Mr. Berry and then Councillor Andrews.
so we can provide, there is some information that we can discuss, but it's just not public information that unfortunately based on discussion with the province, so we can still counsel them with a little bit of information.
Councillor Andrews.
From my understanding with that meeting with Ed Hoffman, is that Northwest Tel, yes, they're potentially putting a tender out here in February, or in the fall. They don't want to take the bridge out. They would rather leave it there and have somebody else take over the rights of it. So Park's looking into information on engineering reports and maintenance records on the bridge. And they're also looking for a partnership of some sort to help alleviate the cost of maintenance of the road and bridgeway. So I would recommend that council reach out to Parks to see what information they have and where we can or can't help out with this one.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, and like I said, there's some information that we can share in the closed meeting that's not public information just yet, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Thank you, Mr. Toft. Admin report number 13, corporate sustainability policy. Is Ms. Vandersteen with us? There she is. Hello, Ms. Vandersteen.
Good evening. So thank you, Council and Mayor. So this report comes to you after a bit of a lengthy process with COVID-19 throwing a wrench in everything. But as promised, here is a draft report, and I wanted to, or staff wanted to get your feedback on this kind of initial draft, just to make sure that we're on par with what the expectation and thoughts were of council on what you were kind of envisioning here. And then the question 1 or point 1 is specific to a purchasing option that could be in, but is obviously at the direction of council. So we wanted to bring that one to your attention forefront and just see what the thoughts were.
Councillors, anyone have any comment? On anything, Councillor Gerving, I guess?
Krista, do you want want my input just on that one point, or do you want my overall input?
Can we get input on that 1 point first and then maybe the general rest?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have any input on the costing.
Yay, nay, pull it, scrap, leave it.
So we're talking about the 10%? Is that the one we're talking about?
Correct.
Yes, Councillor Gerving.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Gerving?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think it makes sense to write that into the policy. We all know that it costs more to buy recycled plastic than regular plastic, or recycled paper than non-recycled paper. And I think it's really, really important that we are modeling what we hope our future will be. And hopefully, with our buying power, we can begin to see some of those costs decrease. So I would be in favor of a maximum 10% price differential for purchasing alternative sustainable products that increase the municipality's sustainable operations.
Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, I was just I'll echo support. I think 10% falls in with even our local purchasing and procurement policy hand in hand. So that's great. I'm in support. I'll second Councillor Gerving's motion as long as the worms are happy with the recycled stuff.
Very good. Was there a motion there, Councillor Gerving? Because Councillor Andrews said he supported your motion, but I didn't actually hear a motion.
Okay, so I would, but I want to continue talking about the policy, right? So.
Okay.
Sorry, I misheard.
On that?
Well, Councillor Gerving, why don't you continue talking about the policy?
Okay.
And then at the end, we'll formulate a motion, and then
Okay.
we'll go from there.
If everybody could go to page 8, then of 15 in the reports, I don't know what that is in the council package, but yeah. So under the third bullet, it says require an environmental analysis as a routine component of work and project planning for employees and for contractors and consultants doing work on behalf of the municipality. So what would this look like? And then 2 parts. What happens to this analysis? Is this analysis then used to guide or like, yeah. So question 1 is what would it look like? And then question 2 is what happens to the analysis?
So this would need to be fleshed out more in a procedure for staff, in discussions with the different departments. It could look like a specific scorecard or matrix as part of future RFPs that at least forces the contractor to think about their sustainable impacts and identify where they may hit or miss. And then also for the staff piece is just anything new. So obviously you wouldn't have to do one every single time you're doing hopping in a truck if you hop in a truck every single day. But if we're considering new programs or new projects, to have an actual thought process to what that impact is. It wouldn't be an all-encompassing. So in the way of what's done with it, if it's in an RFP, that obviously wouldn't be the only scorecard, but it would at least be a consideration, which I don't know how much consideration is being put towards that right now. Does that answer your question, although kind of vague because it would be fleshed out in a procedure?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm understanding that there's work yet going to be done on the policy. You kind of were just coming to council to see if we were in favor of the 10% thing, right? Okay, so just 2 more points then. So while we're fleshing out this policy, I'm kind of looking for something that says work practices. Like I don't really know what the wording is, but incorporating sustainable practices, including but not limiting to minimizing, diverting waste, vermicompost, reusing, recycling. So I would like that to be included in the policy so that it becomes the culture of the community, you know, and there's been several examples where because we were diverting paper to the worms, that ended up increasing our use of plastic bags. And so I just want to kind of, if we can think out those everyday actions and somehow get that written into the policy, that it just becomes more inclusive. And then my last point is there room in this policy to incorporate community input, thought, solutions? So I was wondering would be the better word, if we would want an advisory group, or like we have the tourism advisory group for council, maybe we would want to have an advisory group, but have that included in the policy so that then that becomes something that is actually done. That's my thoughts.
Okay, can I answer or provide feedback to those thoughts?
Sure. Why don't you do that, Ms. Vanderstein?
So the first part that you were just discussing, so a lot of that in our department discussions fell under number 10, which is the reduce waste emissions and energy consumption directly associated with operations. So there were a lot of opportunities that were brought up at the more specific level, everything from the type of coffee, although we're not purchasing coffee right now due to COVID-19, but types of packages for stuff like that. There were all sorts of catering related suggestions, which COVID-19 did throw a wrench in as well. But so there was, in our discussions with departments, there was a lot of those smaller scale items, and a lot of those fell under number 10 for the reducing waste emissions and energy. There were also a lot of good ideas that fell under number 8. So with the purchasing, and we did include in there to give preference to materials that can be reused first so that we're not creating any waste, diverted to the vermicompost as a second option, and then recycled as a third. So I don't know if that is enough for what you're looking at, Councillor Gerwing.
Councillor Gerwing.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just didn't, or I'm hoping that it can be more specific, more empowering for staff. You know, so this is a policy that is of council, but how do we include empowering staff in this policy? Because they're the ones that are going to see changes that we are never going to see. So I read all these and it's all the right words, but I'm just hoping that somehow we can, give staff the power to know that they can elicit changes.
Are there any other comments? I guess the only comment I would make is that from time to time I see people trying to embrace environmental objectives, and what happens is the quality of the product goes down or the inconvenience goes up. And I understand the 10% it's a good goal, but if you're willing to pay 10% more for recycled paper, and the paper is of a lower quality than the paper you're already using, I see a problem there. Also, with contractors who do something that's somewhat environmentally friendly, but have a 10% tax on top of it, I have a bit of a problem with that. So I'm sure you will do a much better job of navigating this than I've done in explaining it, but I see too many things where, you know, you get biodegradable coffee pods instead of the usual Keurig one, except that the coffee that I get out of the biodegradable ones, I wouldn't really want to drink. But anyway, and, you know, you pay a 10% premium for those. Those are the sort of things that I worry about when people start talking about moving more to environmentally friendly. Sometimes the quality goes down, but that's all. It remains for Miss Van der Steen to navigate that, and I'm sure she will put her mind to it and do a great job. Thank you. Councillor Gerwing.
So now I forget. Do you need a motion? Did I
yes.
stop that whole thing
Okay.
from taking place,
Well,
or what?
Let me go back to the original thing. Does council support a 10%
Yeah.
price differential?
I would make that motion.
Very well.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Does the draft policy generally meet the expectations and goals of regional council? I have a motion on that. I'll move that motion. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Gerwing is opposed. Very well. Moving on. I think that's all the motions we need. Yes, we do. Okay. Administration report number 14, Tourism Advisory Committee terms of reference. Ms. Van der Steen again.
Yes, so this was presented to Regional Council at the special meeting on March 8th, directly by the Tourism Advisory Committee. And we're bringing it forward again to hopefully have some changes that were recommended by the Tourism Advisory Committee approved prior to moving into a recruitment process, as the TAC is coming up on their 2-year term this spring.
Thank you. Any comments? Councillor Penny.
Just make a couple, I want to make sure, Mayor, you did get a chance to see the revision?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of really slight changes, really. We just want to make sure that we are, diversity is one thing amongst the group, but we want to make sure that we get, the sections of the community that are really connected to tourism. And I think that when we first put out the call for people last year, and we get a lot of enthusiastic people, a lot of them, I think, had the idea that it would be a little bit different of a group. It would be more of a doing group than a advisory group, which is actually turned into be a great thing because we've got a trails committee now and we've got other committees, so it has sparked lots of things. But we want to make sure going forward that that we get a vast. We didn't get anybody from guide and outfitting last time. We didn't have anybody from Profit River, and so that sort of thing. We want to make sure that we reach out all throughout there. A couple other little housekeeping items that we're doing was we had a tough time during the summer. COVID just made everything that much worse anyway, but we weren't even able to move minutes forward, so council didn't get a chance to see minutes for quite a bit of time because we didn't have quorum repeatedly, so then we weren't able to bring those minutes forward. So one thing that Spanish team brought forward that they have at the chamber is if you don't have quorum 2 meetings in a row, that the business from the first meeting can be voted on by the members that are actually at the meeting. So that's what one slight change we wanted to make, just basically so we can get the minutes out from a quorum meeting to get it to council. And I actually brought it forward that the member of council that is appointed to the Tourism Advisory Committee, I would just like to have as a member of the committee, and that the committee still have the option to vote for the chair and co-chair. Instead of, whomever may come from this table to go to that table, I want to make sure that the group is comfortable with having them chair the meetings, so.
Good. So,
what the changes would be.
any other comments, councillors? Very well. Councillor Penny, do you want to move the recommendations of the Tourism Advisory Committee terms of reference be approved as provided?
Yes, I'd move that motion forward.
We have a seconder for that.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Northern Rockies Regional Hospital District 2021 annual budget adoption bylaw number 75. Ms. McIver?
Thank you, Mayor. So the final budget for the hospital district is before council for all 3 readings and adoption. So legislatively, the municipality is required, or the regional hospital district, is required to adopt it prior to the end of March annually. And so the report just breaks down the capital projects, which the NRHD takes a 40% share in. One item was that changed between the preliminary budget, or the provisional budget, and this budget was the boiler project. So the final cost of that came in a fair amount lower than the provisional budget, than what was submitted in the provisional budget. And then additional to that is a bit more information in terms of what the NRHD budgets for its own activities. So in the appendix, you'll see there's a recruiting line, and that includes the cost to implement the community health plan, which we typically receive 66% funding divided by our other 2 partners, Fort Nelson First Nation and Northern Health, as well as some of the projects initiated by the steering committee, one of which is a quarterly communications piece for the community. And also incentives or welcome gifts for physicians, locum physicians, and visiting nurses and things like that. So we provide them a kind of a welcome package with vouchers and things for local businesses. We have a small budget in there of $5,000 that we've slated year to year for air ambulance planning and development. So that's to look at options related to medical travel. And then physician housing. So as council knows, we own and maintain 2 single-family homes, which are occupied by our permanent physicians, and then we also have 2 rental units that accommodate, one accommodates nurses full-time and the other accommodates visiting physicians. And then at the time this report was written, we didn't include it, but it's now part of the budget that's there for adoption, is the Regional Health Advocate budget of $50,000, which Council voted last Wednesday, I think it was the 18th, to fund from unappropriated surplus funds. No net tax impact of that.
Are there any questions for Ms. McIver? Councillor Andrews.
This budget, it reflects Northern Health's understanding where they get to keep all the grant funding, correct?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very well. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Roper, seconded by Councillor Souls, that we approve the 2021 annual budget adoption bylaw number 75. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Andrews is opposed. Motion carries, and that is first, second, third, and adoption. Moving on, information package, council information package from March 10th, council information package for March 17th, receive for information. New business items, update on council resolution number 47, 2021, 72-hour hold of impound animals. Ms. McIver.
So as council will recall, at the February 22nd meeting, there were a couple pieces of correspondence on the agenda from Takashi's Animal Rescue that indicated their plans to close their operation. And Ms. Richter from Takashi's addressed council towards the end of the meeting in the public question and answer period. As a result, council passed a resolution for staff to look at options to extend the 72-hour hold of impounded animals. So we just wanted to let council know that staff's working on a more fulsome report that will be coming back to you, outlining several options. So outreach, there's been outreach with the SPCA, there's been conversations with Ms. Richter, conversations with our pound contractor, and just trying to identify what levels of service remain in the community and where the gaps exist and what agencies may or may not be able to fill those gaps. So just for council's reference, the 72-hour hold is something that is within our animal control bylaw. So basically, the bylaw states that an animal shall be impounded for 72 hours until such time that they can be adopted, relocated to an animal welfare agency, sold, or subsequently euthanized. So in saying that, the numbers, as council may recall from a past report, the numbers of euthanization through the pound are very, very low. There was an arrangement to basically transfer animals from the pound to Takashi's, but when we spoke to our pound contractor, very few animals actually hit the pound. But that being said, the contractor at this point is more than happy to work with the SPCA or another agency for any duration of time. So the 72 hours isn't something that the contractor feels that there's no clock ticking on their end. It's basically just the provision of our bylaw. So council has the option, if they so desire, to pass a resolution, for example, to basically suspend that or not enforce that portion of the bylaw. And the duration could be extended until a transfer can be.
Any comments? Very well. I'll ask for a motion that we suspend the 72-hour part of our animal control bylaw. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Dolan. All those in favor? Carried. No addition by Mayor or CAO. Items for discussion, councillor reports. Are there any councillor reports? Go ahead, Councillor Souls.
Just a note, it's a council report, yet it is kind of private in a sense too, because I'm working on my own land. But over the course of the last week, I have hosted 2 very serious wood fiber companies that use wood fiber and are very interested in some of the high quality wood in our community and very interested in the future there, and I can't name them. I've hosted them on and actually showed them some of the timber and some of the logs and so on. And there's a third one that I'm preparing some logs to ship. So I want you to know that concept of finding a key as an end user for the low value wood in the community, I believe is still the right approach, because once that's taken care of, then there's access to.
Councillor Gerwing.
Okay, so March the 11th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. March the 12th, I attended the Community Health Plan Travel Committee meeting, and it came out, so this committee has been formed to determine a way forward to help residents navigate through all the barriers faced having to travel for medical services. We discovered at this meeting that currently the health unit indicates that they are providing services to residents, but more work is needed to confirm exactly what residents can access service and how thorough the service may be. So something that we are working on. Also on March 15th, I attended the library board meeting, and I'm very pleased to announce that the library will soon, like next week, be reopening to the public on Mondays, and this brings the library opening hours back up to pre-pandemic service levels. And additionally, work will soon begin on the public computer stations to ensure physical distancing can be maintained by users. So that will be a much needed service back to our community. Right now, very limited computer use because it can't be safely. So that will be done PDQ, so excited.
Any other council reports? Councillor Andrews.
On the 17th, I sat in on the Northern Rockies info session with Chris Cooper and representatives from Parks and Muskwakachika. We talked about peak renewables and concerns around the pellet plant and some information there. We went in and talked about some Fiscal Management recovery and a lot about the Nonda Tower, which we already covered, and then just a little touch on the new boundaries of Treaty 8. So if anyone would like some information, just let me know.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Any other council reports? Very well. I was asked to MC the announcement of the Clark Lake Geothermal Project on March 12th. The event took place virtually and included Chief Charlene Gale, Chief Louine of the Carrier First Nations, and Vice Chair of the Major Projects Coalition, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources for Canada, and the Honourable Minister Murray Rankin, BC Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. This geothermal project was given over $40 million from the government and $45 million by First Nations Major Projects Coalition. I'm delighted to see the project worth almost $100 million coming to the Northern Rockies, and this project will provide jobs throughout its construction to 2024 and operational jobs after that, with further benefits accruing to the region for many years to come. Spoke to Dan Campbell regarding the potential to have medevac flights from Fort Nelson. Mr. Campbell has requested a meeting with Council on April the 12th to discuss this further. So Ms. McIver is in the process of getting that invitation out to councillors. Spoke to Northern Health on March 18th. Dr. Kim, the Chief Medical Officer, Kathy Aldridge, CAO of Northern Health, and Colleen Nice, Chair of Northern Health. It was a conference call and was regarding the progress towards vaccinations, COVID updates, and comments on addiction challenges throughout the region. I attended an NDIT Regional Advisory Committee on Friday, and on Saturday, the NCLGA meeting for 6 hours on Saturday. That is my report. Are there any comments from the public, the news media? Okay.
Deb, you're welcome to unmute.
Hello.
Hello. Vandersteen, go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. So taking off my chamber hat, I just want to make sure that this is clear. This is coming from a resident, not from any group within the community. And I just wanted to speak, and Ms. Vandersteen may yell at me later for this, to the sustainability piece, and fully in supportive of her report, as a proud mom should be. However, I do think that I'm so enthralled with the worm project, and I think our vermicomposting project here has been such a huge success. And I'd really like to put my voice forward in just saying the one thing I think that we're missing as a community is celebrating that ourselves. And I would love to see it more in the forefront. I would love to see us, and it may be hard with the pandemic, but putting it out there in all of our municipal venues and really marking it out there to the community, because I think now that we're through the pilot project, there's just so much potential, and I just really love these little critters. So anything we can do and anything council can do to put this forward as something that this community has done so well, and they're just, they eat everything almost. So we really should be celebrating this project. And I would like to see that more in a forefront from the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Vandersteen. I appreciate that. Councillor Roper?
Yeah, just on that point, we've had some discussions about how we can
You cut out, Councillor.
I'll call this regional council meeting back to order. Anything to rise and report, Ms. MacIver?
Yes, so rise and report a resolution to enact the property maintenance bylaw in relation to the case at the Villers Trailer Park.
Thank you. And I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? We are adjourned.